New details in the downtown shooting near FedEx Forum that killed Memphis rapper SAYSO and injured Houston rapper Walka. Memphis police say murder suspect Jaden Dandridge was found dead.
Father, he told me physically he's going to be okay. He is on crutches recovering from the shooting that happened right here in downtown Memphis over the weekend. But right now, they're all focusing on mourning the loss of SAYSO.
Torian Hunt, a 27-year-old hip-hop artist known as COP, had no idea that his typical Saturday afternoon in Memphis on March 22, 2025 would be his final one. An assailant was already setting up shop across the street from the Westin Memphis B Street Hotel as he stood there. Getting ready to cap off what had been the young rapper's year of breakout success. Let's say P was high about his new deal with the Sauce Factory, the record label owned by Houston rap legend Walka. This wasn't your typical record agreement. It was confirmation that his skill could go beyond the risky. Streets in Raleigh...
man. What are you talking about? Here's the totem people, man. Got this shit on bankroll, go yard, diamonds, all this shit, man. We having this shit, man. See what the fuck going on.
Holding this shit.
The sauce away, man.
Still holding though. Forever holding, putting it in a gravity unit.
Walka brought Hunt into his expanding business at the ideal time because he saw something unique in him. As a genuine route from the streets to mainstream fame, this was everything SAYSO had worked so hard to achieve. Like other young men from the tougher neighborhoods, music was Torian Hunt's escape route. In the underground scene, where survival depends on authenticity, his stage identity had weight. Friends spoke about a man who actively worked to improve things while maintaining his origins. The TSF agreement symbolized years of working hard at neighborhood venues, gaining a fan base that appreciated his unadulterated storytelling skills and sincere desire for more. In addition to being a well-known independent rapper, Walka has established a reputation for aggressively fostering the next wave of hip-hop artists. It wasn't simply business that led him to sign P, it was intimate. The Houston rapper recognized the young Memphis artist's hunger and genuineness, which reminded him of his own path from the streets to success, and saw potential in him that others would have missed. In earlier interviews, Walka had talked fervently about his duty to mentor up-and-coming artists, assisting them in avoiding the mistakes that destroyed so many bright futures. For COP, who saw Walka as a big brother as well as a business partner, this mentorship meant the world. Someone who truly cared about his prosperity and welfare. The site in western Memphis ought to have been impenetrable. Located in the center of downtown, immediately across from the FedEx Forum, the neighborhood was bustling with visitors, business people, and regular monitoring. This well-watched site would have seemed like the safest option for someone like COP, who was aware of the targets associated with his background and growing profile. Hip-hop aspirations and street culture have always been prevalent in Memphis. The frequency of collisions between worlds was terrible. Too many great talents were lost before they could realize their full potential in the same setting that gave birth to iconic musicians like Young Dolph and 36 Mafia. COP understood this dynamic quite well, having seen personally how tragedy might rapidly turn into achievement in his area. There was more to his relationship with Walka than just a shared artistic vision. It provided security through ethical corporate practices and competent management, and it was a lifeline to a higher level of the sector. However, despite these protections in Memphis's streets, had a way of extending into any circumstance and abruptly transforming a celebration into a disaster. Surveillance footage showed 3 males leaving a white car with deliberate precision around 2:45 p.m. an automobile on George Wesley Avenue. One wore a black cloak, the other 2 moved with murderous intent, both demonstrating the cooperation of those who had painstakingly prepared this event. This violence wasn't sporadic. This execution took place at one of Memphis's most conspicuous sites during the day. SEOP and Walka seemed at ease as the shooter got closer, utterly oblivious to the impending threat. The gunman started shooting before either man could respond. Despite being shot in the leg, Walka would live. PE absorbed the entire attack, let's say. As he dropped, several shots tore through his body, quickly turning his white shirt scarlet. 30 seconds. That was all it took to ruin all he had put so much effort into creating. Despite the valiant efforts of paramedics to save both men, COP's injuries were deadly. Walka was still alive and gave investigators important information, but the young rapper's life passed quickly. He could get to the medical facility. Police cordoned off the Westin, turning it into a crime scene as they started to look for answers in a case that would take place across several states. The revelation sent shockwaves across Memphis and Houston's hip-hop scenes as social media exploded with it. Hop communities. The timing seems especially harsh. Siop has been working on new songs that would have made him well-known. His closest friends and family spoke of a young man who was inspired by his future and dedicated to utilizing his position to motivate people with comparable experiences. Hours before, dreams that looked so possible now lay broken on the pavement of the downtown area. Walka faced his personal struggles in Regional 1 Health, the leg of the rapper from Houston. Although his wound was terrible, his emotional suffering was more profound. He had the great responsibility of giving investigators descriptions while dealing with his own sadness and survivor's guilt as the only witness to his protege's death. What everyone feared was confirmed by Chief C.J. Davis. This was not a random hit. It was a targeted one. Aggression. The Memphis Police Department's first priority was to solve the crime because of its downtown location and blatant daylight timing. Finding COPP's killers would be the focus of every resource available, delivering a clear message that there would be no tolerance for violence against public leaders. A spooky image was painted by Siop's last social media tweets. Unadulterated enthusiasm for future endeavors, appreciation for his collaboration with Saka, and sincere hope for the future. No indications of danger or violence. His friends characterized him as being in his greatest place in life. His final post turned into a heartbreaking reminder of the dreams he lost on that Memphis street. His mother appeared as his strongest advocate, using impassioned interviews to quell rumors and conjecture. She vehemently denied this, describing Lateran as a devoted son who had worked lawfully to provide for his family. Allegations of criminal activity. His greatest weakness was his devotion to other people. According to her, the loss signified not only her own personal destruction, but also the passing of all the potential benefits her kid could have brought to his community. From his hospital bed. In a stirring Instagram homage, Sauce Walker described COP as not just another musician on his label, but family. He talked about their close relationship, their common goals, and the enormous potential he had recognized in the young Memphis prodigy. The post ended with a promise. Even if COP were not present to see his wishes come true, his music would still be heard around the globe. The Memphis Police Department's investigation proceeded at a never-before-seen pace. Detectives were able to identify many people of interest in a matter of days. The gang unit joined homicide investigators after following leads across state lines, realizing that the investigation might have connections outside of Memphis. The assault's brazenness implied that the offenders were motivated by either extreme personal motivation or total carelessness. 4 days later, Memphis police made public images of Jaden Dandridge, age 21, was named as the main suspect. His young age, just out of his teens, emphasized the terrible truth of how violence is sustained. Themselves in neighborhoods with limited options for young males. Dandridge, who was accused of murder and several assaults, was seen as armed and extremely hazardous. Memphis police, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, and other law enforcement agencies coordinated the manhunt, which swiftly spread to Texas, throughout the South. Dandridge's flight path indicated planning and potential help from others. For while their loved one's killer remained at large, the families of both victims experienced further pain with every day that passed without an arrest, depriving them of any feeling of closure. The manhunt in Houston came to a violent end 9 days after Siop was murdered. The body of Dandridge was found by police, bullet-riddled in what officials decided investigators suspected links to the same conflicts that had claimed SEOP, but the circumstances were still unknown. It stood for street justice to some. It meant answers for others. Since the main suspect will never be put on trial, information on why SEOP was targeted might never come to light. As the hip-hop community laments yet another gifted artist, Memphis continues to struggle with the loss of another bright artist. COP's memory is a warning and a call to action, but it was taken too soon. His narrative calls on us to improve our efforts to safeguard aspiring artists, address the underlying causes of violence, and make sure that dreams don't let people who would rather destroy than create target you because of your success in music. The young man who had talked about using music to get out of risky situations ended up becoming another victim of the same surroundings that he was trying to get over. However, there is still optimism that by commemorating Lateran Hunt and SAYSO's artistic vision, following generations of artists won't have to take the same perilous path from the slums to fame, and that skill in it will just take willpower to create a better tomorrow.